Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends. Welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. So this week, as always, we're going to look at the trends that are going on in Standard, Modern, Legacy. I do want to talk a little bit about the news that Wizards is going to have another print run of Eternal Masters, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. Quickly, before we get started, if you check out the description below, you'll see some links to our Amazon affiliate store. If you make any purchases through any of those links, or actually buy anything once you go through there, a small percentage will come back to help support the channel. Of course, that's always appreciated. And as always, any of the cards you see here today on the lists will also be available in that store. And finally, thank you to all the folks on Patreon that help support the channel. Can't say how much that means to us. So having said that, let's get into the cards for this week, starting with Standard. First, we'll look at the top 5 cards that lost value this week. Nothing too earth-shaking going on right now in Standard. We're at a point, for the most part, where the folks that wanted certain cards have gotten them. People have built their decks. The meta has settled in pretty well. Some of the cards that spiked after the Pro Tour are still coming down. So that's what you're going to really see this week. And coming in at number 5 is Aetherworks Marvel, down 67 cents to $6.44. Not a big drop, but again, another card that saw a big spike after the Pro Tour and has just slowly been coming down as more packs get open and players get their decks built. Coming in at number 4 is Gideon, Ally of Zendikar, down 68 cents to $29.99. Now, I mentioned last week that I thought last week's spike for Gideon was probably his peak. He hit a little over $30. I think you're going to start seeing this card come down at this point. It had a lot of hype around it for the last few weeks because of a number of reasons, and that includes everything from a good Pro Tour showing to the fact that Wizards changed the Standard format to make this card legal for a longer period of time, to the fact that the blue-white flash deck was doing really well in the meta. So a lot of things were behind Gideon, just pushing this card up and up and up. But you do have to remember, a lot of packs of Battle for Zendikar have been open. There's a lot of Gideons out there, and once the scramble to get these cards starts to die down, you're going to see what we're starting to see here. And I think we'll see a gradual decrease at this point in this card. So if you have extra copies that you want to get rid of, probably a very, very good time to do so. I think this will continue to come down now. Coming in at number 3 is Nissa Vital Force, down 71 cents to $9.43. Nissa is a card that's seeing play in Standard, but it's just not in large quantities, so I think she'll continue to drop a little bit more. Coming in at number 2 is Selfless Spirit, down 77 cents to $9.48. Again, not a huge drop here or anything. A card that is still seeing a lot of play, but even though not as many packs of Eldritch Moon are being open as, say, a Kaladesh or even a Battle for Zendikar, there's still a lot of packs of this being open, and this card's just stabilizing down a little bit. Finally, coming in at number 1 is Nahiri the Harbinger, and she's down 84 cents to $18.04. Now, this is a card that has seen play in Modern as well as Legacy, not to mention Standard, but she is starting to get a little bit softer as time goes on, as far as folks that were trying to brew different things with her have moved on to other stuff. However, she's still potentially a viable card in the future, so if you can pick these up for $10, $15, I'd try to get some copies. I think they could be good investments for the long term. All right, let's move on to some top Standard cards that have gained value this week. And what you're going to see here, again, very soft Standard market. Mostly you're going to notice that cards like mana-based cards are the ones that people are focusing on at this point to help build their decks. So you're not going to see anything too earth-shaking here as far as numbers. Coming in number 5, we have Game Trail, up 9 cents to $3.45. And of course, totally makes sense because there's a lot of energy decks and the Gruul colors are doing well. Number 4, you have Spire Bluff Canal, up 11 cents to $9.26. Is it decks again strong in the meta too? Smoldering Marsh, up 12 cents to $3.72. Coming in number 2, Archangel Avacyn, up 44 cents to $19.73. She had kind of a renaissance recently due to her involvement in the blue-white flash deck, which again, very strong in the meta. So she was really starting to get down pretty low, back up to the $20 mark now, but I do think she's kind of hitting her peak at this point too, as folks have started to assemble that deck if they were interested in it. So watch out for her to start coming down slowly, probably beginning next week. And finally, number 1 is Grim Flare, up another 72 cents to $20.72. Key card, of course, in Delirium decks. And this countdown this week, I think, is pretty cool. It does show the diversity that is in Standard right now, which is pretty exciting. All right, let's move on to Modern. And the cards that are losing value this week are cards that there's a lot of speculation that potentially could be reprinted in Modern Masters 2017, which really isn't that far away since it will be coming out in March. Coming in at number 5, we have Ensnaring Bridge. This is 8th edition version, down $1.43 to $37.03. Card could desperately use a reprint. Totally makes sense to be in a Modern Masters because it is a very strong Modern card and hasn't seen a reprint since 8th edition. It's been a long time ago. Really just kind of squeaked into Modern. This version of it is the 3rd printing of the card, but has not been printed since. Coming in at number 4 is Noble Hierarch, and this is the Modern Masters 2015 version, down $1.60 to $63.07. Again, we saw it last time around. Potentially we could see it again this time. Again, it is a card that sees a lot of play in a lot of places. Coming in number 3 is Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, down $2.07 to $34.99. Another card that sees play in Modern as well as other places that we saw printed last year and potentially could come back again this year. Coming in at number 2 is Verdant Catacombs, down $2.11 to $69.99. Now, there are some folks that think enemy color fetches could show up in Modern Masters. I talked a lot about this last week, but honestly, I don't really feel personally that we're going to see them there. I think we're going to see them in a future standard set, which isn't necessarily a bad thing when it comes to future pricing of the card if you're trying to get your hands on them. I think this one's just coming down mostly because out of all the fetch lands even, this was the highest by far, and it was over $70 for quite a while now. So it's coming back down to the $70 mark. I do think this will come down a little bit more as time goes on, just because it was very high in comparison to the others. Coming in at number 1 again is Tarmogoyf, and this time the Future Sight version loses some ground, losing $234 to $157.39, where the Modern Masters 2015 version lost $379 to $127.29. Again, Tarmogoyf's a little soft right now. First off, it could show up in the next Modern Masters. I mean, we've seen it in all the other versions. Stands to reason, could be in the next one. But also to a lot of folks that want their Tarmogoyfs, I think at this point have them, and they are seeing a little bit less play than they've seen in the past. All right, let's move on to the cards that have gained value this week in Modern. Now, the big story you're going to see here, you're going to see a couple of cards from the Scred Red deck. Scred Red actually won a Grand Prix, a Modern Grand Prix in Dallas last week, so there's definitely some attention on those cards. But first, we'll start with Platinum Imperium, up 86 cents to $19.50. Number 4 is Pact of the Titan, up 88 cents to $6.25. Now, this pact, as well as the white one from Future Sight, appeared to be maybe the target of a mini buyout over the last couple weeks, but prices are starting to settle down at this point, and those are the only two that weren't reprinted in Modern Masters, which could be why they were targeted. Coming in number 3 is Arkham Dragson, up 89 cents to $7.50, and this card is not showing up in any top-tier Modern decks or anything like that. However, it is a card that could be influenced by Commander 2016. Of course, that product is dropping this weekend, and it's been very popular so far, and certain decks among them are very popular, one of which is Invent Superiority, which is a deck that focuses on artifacts, as you can imagine. So potentially this is seeing a little bit of a bump as an upgrade card to that deck, which is actually pretty cool. So granted, this doesn't have a whole lot to do with the Modern format, but it is a Modern legal card, and I think it's definitely important to talk about here. Coming in number 2 is Koth of the Hammer, up $2.92 to $10.31. And of course, this is one of the key cards in that Scred Red deck. Speaking of Scred Red, Scrying Sheets comes in at number 1, up $7.27 to $15.10. Also notable to mention, we have 2 Cold Snap cards in the top 5 this week. Cold Snap at one point was a very underrated set, and it's nice to see it bounce back in the secondary market over the years because there's a lot of awesome cards in it. Now let's move on to Legacy. Now, if you haven't yet heard, Eternal Masters is getting another print run. Now, Wizards contact stores and basically said to them, we're going to do a quote-unquote modest print run of Eternal Masters, so how many boxes do you want to order? Furthermore, they went on to say that even though these will make great holiday gifts, boxes of them, they are encouraging stores to use them, or at least a percentage of them, for drafts, which I think is Wizards' kind of way of saying, hey, please don't hoard this product. So this raises a couple questions. The first one being, well, why would they do this? Here's my thoughts on it. And as somebody who worked in a big corporation for many, many years, this really feels like there's a push for them to increase revenue and meet their goals for the next quarter. Typically, what happens with Wizards in general, just the curve of Magic, you have the fall set usually does really well. And now recently they've introduced expeditions and inventions, which are really set to kind of push sales even further. And then you get into the winter month, where in the winters you get your smaller set, which is kind of a offshoot of the set you saw in the fall. So you're not seeing anything drastically new. And also, weather's bad in some portions of the country or the world, so they're going to sell a little bit less. People are going out to LGSs a little bit less. So in a nutshell, basically, in January, you almost expect sales of Magic to drop a little bit compared to what they saw in September. However, in the corporate world, that's not always acceptable, and it does appear that maybe they're getting more pressure recently from corporate. And I think that's why we're seeing things like the Masterpiece cards that are really meant to drive sales. And they also got a new president not that long ago. And I've said this before, but if I was that president, one of my first questions would be, why are we printing these products that people love and want to play and then not printing enough of them to meet demand? Why are we just throwing the money in the garbage, basically? I'm sure that question has and it will continue to come up. And I don't know if trying to keep collectors, quote unquote, happy is going to be a good enough answer when it comes to we need to meet our goals for the next quarter, right? So I think we're going to see some changes. I think we've already started to see changes, and I think we're going to see more changes down the line. And I think this is one of them. So my second question, though, is if that's why it's happening, is it going to work? And this is a question for all of you. So let me know in the comments below. How many of you want to buy this product at this point? Because it's a relatively old product. There was a lot of excitement over it a few months back, of course. And then, of course, we saw folks that were trying to flip them at outrageous prices, so on and so forth. But if you wanted a box of Eternal Masters over the last probably 3 or 4 months, you could easily find them at retail price. They were on Amazon at retail price. A lot of the TCG player stores had them for retail price. So they've been available at retail price. Now, injecting more into the market at this point makes me wonder, is there a group of folks looking to buy these? Personally, I wouldn't mind drafting them, maybe at the LGS or something like that, but I don't really want to buy any more packs. I mean, I bought my boxes, I opened them for the channel, and then at that point, the players either sell off or trade off what they don't want, trade to get their singles. I think everybody kind of got what they wanted out of this product, so I don't know if it's really going to do that much. So stores have a big decision to make about how much of this stuff to order. Maybe if they have a couple of customers that they feel like are in the market for this, they get some for them. But I don't know if this is something that stores are going to want to heavily invest in, considering it even costs them $125 to buy a box, which is pretty expensive for a retail store to make that commitment. So just some things to throw out there. Love to hear your thoughts on that in the comments below. Having said that, let's see what's going on in Legacy. We're going to look at the cards that lost value this week. Nothing earth-shaking here. Pretty much normal stabilization for some of these cards. They're all reserve list cards, mostly lands. But you are going to notice that even though this is normal to see from these cards, these drops look slightly stronger than I've seen recently. Coming in number 5 is Tundra Unlimited version, down 24.77 to 361.94. Number 4, Candelabra of Tawnos, down 25.50 to 472.49. Coming in number 3, Underground Sea Unlimited, down 31.17 to 547.09. Coming in number 2, Tropical Island, down 32.75 to 316.45, also unlimited. And finally, Unlimited Volcanic Island, down 44.65 to 474.36. All right, so what's hot right now in Legacy? Well, we're going to notice at least one buyout. Coming in number 5 is Singing Tree, up 7.69 to 54.98. Now, there has been a strong focus from collectors on these Arabian Nights, as well as Legends, Antiquities cards. Those original 3 expansions have been very hot. They continue to be very hot. Coming in number 4 is Living Plain, up 7.95 to 65.90. Coming in number 3, Angus Mackenzie, up 14.57 to 90.99. This dropped quite a bit last week, and I made the comment that might be a good time to pick it up because this is usually a pretty big card as far as Commander goes, and you don't usually see a drop. So now you can see it's quickly rebounding already. Coming in number 2 is Moat, up 15.27 to 579.95. Now, this, of course, was the victim of a buyout a while back. It came back down. Didn't go all the way down to where it was, but it came down pretty significantly. But recently it's been creeping up again. Don't know if it's a situation where players are just biting the bullet and buying their copies since they see the prices back down again, or if there is another attempt to buy this out. Coming at number 1 is Brain Geyser Unlimited version, up $23.70 to $54.97. Now, this one feels like a buyout. It's a reserve list card, classic card with classic art. Great card for a lot of different formats, so it definitely sees play, even if it is more casual play most of the time. But this card is also available in a very cheap version. If you want to get the revised version, you can get it for $5. So I kind of feel like, quite honestly, this buyout probably won't pan out. It will spike for a little while, but due to the fact that players do have another option that's very comparable to this one, I feel like this is going to be a very temporary spike. So be really careful if you're in the market to pick these up. You may want to wait a little while or just go ahead and pick up the revised version. All right, so that is the Market Watch for this week. As always, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks as always for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.